Imagine looking at your watch. Watch the second hand tick by. 1 minute. 2 minutes. Now, imagine 6 hours. That is the duration of a long flight, or perhaps a good night's sleep. It feels insignificant in the grand scheme of your life, doesn't it? But what if I told you that 6 hours was the only thing separating you, right now, from a dark, silent, and devastated world? The universe is violent. It is chaotic. And quite frankly, it is trying to kill us. We live on a tiny blue marble spinning through a shooting gallery, and we have been incredibly, improbably lucky. But luck runs out. Welcome to the most terrifying story you will hear today. We are going to dive deep into 6 times humanity stood on the precipice of extinction, staring into the cosmic abyss, and survived by the skin of our teeth. Specifically, we are going to look at the moments where we missed total catastrophe by a margin of mere hours. Before we peel back the curtain on these cosmic close calls, if you value your existence and want to understand the universe that surrounds us, do me a favor. Hit that follow button right now. Join us as we explore the unknown, because knowing what's out there is the first step to surviving it. Let's begin with the event that prompted that terrifying title. The year was 1989. The date, March 23rd. The world was going about its business. People were listening to Madonna, watching Indiana Jones, and worrying about the Cold War. But the real threat wasn't in Moscow or Washington. It was hurtling through the dark vacuum of space at over 46,000 miles per hour. Its name was 4581 Asclepius. It was an asteroid, roughly the size of an aircraft carrier. Now, in cosmic terms, that's a pebble. But in kinetic terms, if that rock hits Earth, it releases energy equivalent to a 600 megaton nuclear explosion. That is dozens of times more powerful than the largest nuclear bomb ever detonated by humanity. Here is the part that should keep you up at night. We didn't see it coming. There were no sirens, no breaking news alerts, no Bruce Willis launching in a shuttle to drill a hole in it. Asteroid Asclepius passed through the exact position where Earth had been just 6 hours earlier. Think about the geometry of that. Earth orbits the Sun at 67,000 miles per hour. If our planet had been just slightly slower in its rotation around the Sun, an infinitesimal delay in cosmic time, Asclepius would have struck. If it had hit in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the resulting tsunamis would have wiped out the coastlines of Japan, California, and Australia. If it had hit a continent, it would have flattened a landmass the size of Texas. Astronomers didn't even detect the asteroid until 9 days after it had missed us. We were walking blind through a minefield, and we didn't even know we had stepped on a mine that failed to detonate until we were a mile down the road. This event was a massive wake-up call for NASA and space agencies globally, birthing the modern era of near-Earth object tracking. But Asclepius was just a warning shot. Now, let's move to a more recent brush with death, one that would not have killed us with impact, but would have sent us back to the Stone Age. Event number 2, the solar superstorm of 2012. July 23, 2012. The Sun, our life-giving star, decided to burp. But this wasn't a normal solar flare. This was a coronal mass ejection, or CME, of historic proportions. To understand the danger, you have to understand what a CME is. It is essentially a shotgun blast of superheated plasma and magnetic fields fired from the surface of the Sun. When these magnetic fields hit Earth, they interact with our own magnetic field. Usually, this just creates beautiful auroras, the northern lights. But the storm in 2012 was different. It was a monster. It tore through Earth's orbit at nearly 2,000 miles per second. According to Daniel Baker from the University of Colorado, along with NASA analysts, if this storm had occurred just 1 week earlier, Earth would have been right in the line of fire. 1 week sounds like a comfortable margin compared to 6 hours, but in the life of the solar system, it is a blink of an eye. So, what would have happened if it hit? We aren't talking about physical extinction, like with the dinosaurs. We are talking about the extinction of the modern world. The storm was powerful enough to melt the copper windings in heavy-duty transformers at power plants across the globe. Imagine the lights going out, not for an hour or a day, but for years. In this scenario, the entire electrical grid of North America, Europe, and parts of Asia would have fried instantly. We don't have spare transformers sitting on shelves. They take months or years to custom build. No electricity means no water pumping into your home. No refrigeration for food. No internet. No banking. No fuel pumps at gas stations. Hospitals would run on generators for 24 hours, and then silence. Analysts estimated the economic impact would have exceeded $2 trillion in the first year alone, but the human cost would have been incalculable. Civil unrest, starvation, and societal collapse would have followed within weeks. We missed it because the Earth had moved out of the kill zone just days prior. The sun fired the gun, but we had just stepped out of the room. Let's go further back for event number 3, to a time before the internet, to understand just how destructive the cosmos can be, even without hitting us directly. The year was 1883. This is known as the Bonilla observation. José Bonilla was a Mexican astronomer taking photographs of the sun. He noticed something strange. Hundreds of dark, fuzzy objects were crossing the face of the sun. He counted over 400 of them. For years, people dismissed his findings as birds or dust on his telescope lens. However, in 2011, scientists at the National Autonomous University of Mexico reanalyzed his data. They came to a chilling conclusion. Bonilla hadn't seen birds. He had seen a massive comet that had shattered into thousands of fragments. This swarm of comet fragments was passing between Earth and the Sun. The calculations showed that these fragments missed Earth by a distance of only a few thousand miles, a hair's breadth in space terms. Each of those fragments was estimated to range from 50 meters to nearly a kilometer wide. If Earth had plowed into that stream of debris, it wouldn't have been one impact. It would have been a bombardment. Estimates suggest we would have experienced over 3,000 impacts, each similar in power to a nuclear bomb. It would have been a cosmic shotgun effect. The sheer amount of dust and debris thrown into the atmosphere would have blocked out the sun for years, causing a nuclear winter that would have collapsed agriculture worldwide and likely ended human civilization as we know it in the late 19th century. We didn't have the technology to even understand what was happening. We just drifted past the graveyard and kept going. This brings us to event number 4, a time when our luck actually ran out, but the location saved us. The Tunguska event of 1908. This is important because it shows us what happens when we don't miss by 6 hours. On June 30th, 1908, a massive explosion rocked the Podkamenia Tunguska River in remote Siberia. Witnesses described the sky splitting in two and fire appearing high above the forest. The heat was so intense it was felt 40 miles away. The shockwave knocked people off their feet hundreds of miles from the blast zone. When scientists finally reached the site years later, they found devastation. 80 million trees were flattened over an area of 830 square miles. They were knocked down in a radial pattern, pointing away from the epicenter. But here is the mystery. There was no crater. Science eventually determined that a stony asteroid, roughly 50 to 60 meters wide, had entered the atmosphere and exploded before hitting the ground. This is called an airburst. The energy released was roughly 15 megatons, about 1,000 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Now, why is this on a list of events that almost erased humanity? Because of the Earth's rotation. If that asteroid had arrived just 4 hours and 47 minutes later, due to the rotation of the Earth, it wouldn't have exploded over the empty Siberian taiga. It would have exploded directly over St. Petersburg, the capital of the Russian Empire at the time. It would have completely vaporized the city. The death toll would have been in the millions. It could have destabilized world politics to a point of changing the entire course of the 20th century. Or, if it had arrived a few hours earlier, it could have struck London. The only reason millions didn't die that day is that the universe decided to aim for a forest instead of a city. It was a game of Russian roulette, and the chamber clicked on an empty field. Let's return to the modern era for event number 5, proving that our technology still has massive blind spots. Asteroid 2019 OK. The name sounds casual, doesn't it? 2019 OK. But the situation was anything but okay. In July 2019, astronomers in Brazil and the United States spotted an asteroid. The terrifying part? They spotted it less than 24 hours before it passed us. Usually, we track dangerous asteroids for years. We know their orbits. We have math on our side. But 2019 OK came from a blind spot. It came from the direction of the sun. Because of the glare of our star, our telescopes couldn't see it approaching until it was practically on top of us. This rock was up to 427 feet wide. It's what scientists call a city killer. It wouldn't wipe out the whole planet, but if it hit New York, Tokyo, or Mumbai, the city would cease to exist. It passed within 45,000 miles of Earth. That sounds far, but in space, that is incredibly close. It is less than 1/5 of the distance to the moon. It passed closer to us than some of our weather satellites. The scientific community was shaken. It proved that despite all our advanced radar and tracking technology, a city-killing rock could sneak up on us from the glare of the sun, giving us zero time to evacuate, let alone deflect it. If it had been on a collision course, we would have had about enough warning time to say a final prayer. And finally, let's talk about event number 6. The one that hasn't happened yet, but nearly did in 2004, causing the highest level of panic NASA has ever publicly admitted. Asteroid 99942 Apophis. When Apophis was discovered in 2004, initial calculations sent a shockwave through the astronomical community. The data suggested a 2.7% chance that this massive rock, shaping up to be as wide as the Empire State Building is tall, would strike Earth in the year 2029. That is a 1 in 37 chance. In the world of planetary defense, those are terrifying odds. It was assigned a rating of 4 on the Torino scale, the highest rating ever given to a threat. If Apophis were to hit, the impact would release the energy of 880 million tons of TNT. Depending on where it hit, it could trigger earthquakes, massive tsunamis, and global climatic shifts. For months, astronomers scrambled to refine the orbit. Thankfully, as they gathered more data, they realized Apophis would miss us. But here is the catch. It is going to miss us by a whisker. On April 13, 2029, Apophis will pass so close to Earth that you will be able to see it with your naked eye. It will pass underneath our ring of geostationary satellites. It will be closer to the ground than the satellites that beam TV signals to your house. While we are currently safe from Apophis, its initial discovery served as a grim reminder. For several weeks, humanity lived under a statistically significant threat of an apocalypse, and most of the public had no idea how much the scientists were sweating. So, why am I telling you all of this? Is it to scare you? Well, yes, a little. But more importantly, it is to educate you on the fragility of our position. For most of human history, we looked at the sky and saw gods, or horoscopes, or pretty lights. We didn't realize we were looking at a highway full of speeding semi-trucks, and we are playing in the middle of the road blindfolded. But there is good news. Unlike the dinosaurs, we have big brains and opposable thumbs. We have agency. In September 2022, humanity did something unprecedented. NASA's DART mission successfully crashed a spacecraft into a small asteroid called Dimorphos. We didn't destroy it, we nudged it. We proved that if we see a threat coming early enough, we can change its path. We can alter the clock. We can turn a direct hit into a miss by 6 hours, or 6 days, or 6 years. We are building a shield. But that shield requires funding, it requires interest, and it requires eyes on the sky. The universe is a shooting gallery, and Earth has been the lucky duck for 4.5 billion years. But we can't rely on luck forever. We have to rely on science, preparation, and vigilance. Next time you look up at the night sky, appreciate the silence. Appreciate the calm. Because now you know just how close we have come to losing it all. If you found this journey through our cosmic near misses fascinating, terrifying, or eye-opening, please make sure you are following this channel. We dig deep into the science, the history, and the mysteries of our universe every single week. You don't want to miss what we have coming next. Because remember, the universe doesn't wait for us to be ready. We have to stay ready. Thanks for watching, and keep looking up.